Hello and welcome to Quarterlight, your car brochure channel, and today's episode for Ford Friday, we're taking a look at the Ford Cortina Mark V for South Africa. Hello and welcome back, and if you're new to Quarterlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube, looking at cars, brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars and car brochures, obviously, please consider subscribing. It's completely free, really does help the channel. Anyway, back to today's episode. It's Ford Friday, which basically means every Friday when these videos are first released, on a Friday at least, we look at a Ford from many different decades and even different regions of the world. Anyway, today it's the turn of the Ford Cortina Mark V, but the South African version, so a little bit different. I've also noticed Ford Cortinas in the UK, a little bit unusual really for a non-sports car, but there's actually becoming more and more Cortinas in the UK, and that's because actually the UK started importing a few Cortinas from other countries like South Africa, because obviously the climate's so much better, they last so much nicer. So it'd be interesting to see the specifications and how they're actually different to the UK models. So we'll throw a few of the UK brochures on there as well. Let's do a bit of comparing and contrasting. This particular brochure's from around about 1980. So let's have a look at that one now. And here is today's brochure, proudly showing that nice wraparound tail light of the Ford Cortina Mark V. Although notice how they're not showing the estate or wagon version, because that didn't wrap around in any shape or form. But anyway, we'll come to that in a moment. And indeed, both saloons and wagons or estates are being shown in this particular South African brochure. You can see at the top, Ford Cortina, the car of your life, and a second language, I presume that's Afrikaans, and in fact there are two different languages, English and presumably Afrikaans, being shown in this brochure. Unusually, isn't there like 12 official languages in South Africa? I don't know, I'm not a language expert at any point or description, so maybe that's something you could comment on as well. We'll certainly look at some of the differences as well, both in the specs, the engines. Is there any sort of like trim differences, by looking at a UK brochure as well at some points during this particular video. But anyway, without further ado, let's open the brochure up and have a look to see how we're introducing this Ford Cortina. Now, unusually in this particular brochure, it isn't really looking at the specs one at a time. It's really jumping in there and telling us three models here. So a 1.6 GL, so there's not even an L shown here, possibly too basic for the South African market, I'm unsure. You can get a 2 litre GL and a 3 litre GLS. Interestingly, so it seems as though it's not really so much as a pack, the S in this particular model. It's just like a standalone model, isn't it? The GLS, where in the UK, which we'll have a look at in a moment, of course the S was more of a pack that you could put on the L, the GL, or indeed the gear to make them a little bit more sporty. But before we do all that, let's have a little bit of a look at this text and see how it introduces it. So it tells us South Africa's favourite since the first year it was launched, the Ford Cortina has become a car you'll remember with real affection for the rest of your life. The 1600 GL offers outstanding economy with high standards of luxury and comfort, smooth 2 litre power and real driving satisfaction. That's the economical 2 litre GL in manual or automatic. And quiet, exciting, a pleasure on the road. The luxurious 3000 GLS offers 6-cylinder motoring combined with 4-cylinder economy, power steering for easy manoeuvrability in manual or automatic. And at the bottom here we've got the actual example of one of the cars. They've chosen to showcase the 1.6 GL here, and there's a few things that kind of like spring out to me that are a little bit unusual. If we just zoom in at the back there, these little lights on the back here, I presume they are the very small fog lights, I don't know, tacked on there as a bit of an afterthought, but looking quite stylish, certainly more stylish than the fog lights that we used to tack on to the UK models, that's for sure. And unusual wheels there, not seen them wheels on a Cortina GL before, and even unusual bumper design. I guess we should throw up a UK GL version just to compare that. So I've just thrown a UK spec'd Ford Cortina GL there just at the top, and ooh, such nice seats, aren't they? But anyway, beside, if we just zoom in on these bumpers, we can see we've actually got black sort of end caps on there rather than the chrome going over around, and like the chrome on top and bottom and this black insert in the middle. And we've also got these overriders as well on the UK GL model, and you can see a different styled wheel. And then just moving back to that South African one as well, you can see, you know, chrome going all the way around rather than just this black end cap, and of course no overriders on there either. And then that very much a different looking wheel. So I mean, you always find this with different countries, slightly different variations on a theme, but it's interesting to see those little lights are certainly an unusual point. And actually, the more I look at them, the more I think they're too actually small to be fog lights. Maybe they're just reflectors. Did the South African rules meant you had to have a couple of reflectors below the bumpers? I really don't know, but please do jot that in the comments if you know what they are. But I'm starting to think they're more likely to be reflectors than fog lights now. Actually, I should really just mention this. This is actually a 1980 brochure for the Cortina GL. You can see it doesn't have overriders. That previous picture was from 82, the end of the run, so they did add overriders later on the UK one, but certainly you could get overriders as standard later on in the Cortina production. But I guess if we're saying the South African brochure is 80, I guess we should throw up the 1980 brochure of the UK GL Cortina, and certainly that doesn't have overriders. So I just wanted to make that point. And if you look at the specs again for the South African one, and there is going to be one other very special specification one after this, so hold on for that, but these are kind of the standard models. So the GL 1.6 2 litre, that kind of like works similarly to the UK spec, because we could get a 1.6 or a 2 litre, but in the UK we could also get a 2.3 litre V6 for the GL model. But of course, no 3 litre. Even if you get the S pack, it doesn't become a 3 litre, so certainly differences in engines there as well. And then while talking about S packs, I might as well throw you this UK brochure up with the S packs. This particular one they've turned into, well, not really turned into, but you can see it's badged as a GLS, but it's more of a pack. This particular one being a 2.3, where in South Africa this could possibly have been a 3 litre GLS. The difference is, though, is that you get that S pack on different specifications. So you get the L and then order an S pack. You can order the GL and get the S pack, and you can even order a gear and get the S pack. So on a gear, for example, it's putting driving lamps, revised suspension, front gas absorbers, and a sport gear lever knob. In fact, the higher up the spec you went, the less sort of add-ons you got. But you can certainly see there that, you know, the S was very much a pack. Going back to South Africa, this is a picture of the Ford Cortina 3000 GLS. Spacious, luxury and smooth performance on the road. Interior wise, I guess there are some slight differences between the UK ones, but nothing huge. And yeah, it's not the best picture to compare, but you know, that's your UK GLS, and this is your South African interior GLS. Very similar story, even down to that steering wheel. And then we've got this rather nice image of this GLS version, the South African version. They're towing a boat, which is a lovely image. I do like this GLS in red, and indeed in the UK they also chose a red Cortina GLS, as you can see there. Hard to see because the pictures are only very tiny, but we've still got those sort of like front driving lights on each one, haven't we? Also looks like, and if I can get a little bit of a pointer on there, it also looks like the South African version had this sort of like extra sort of chrome strip on the leading edge of the bonnet. Just moving in still further, you can see that looks like a chrome strip on that leading edge of the bonnet, and also you can actually see the GLS does have overriders, but they're in a different position directly under those driving lamps, which is kind of like almost making a better sort of fixing for those driving lamps. But the much smaller overriders, the overriders in the UK would be somewhere under these lights here, and I'll show you that again in a moment, but you can see that difference. You can also see these little dots. Now I don't know if these little dots are just like errors in the photography, or there may be more reflectors, like a white reflector under the front bumpers for the South African market. Again, I'm not sure about the regulations in South Africa, or indeed it could just be like a fault with the printing, I'm not sure, but very, very small, very, very unusual. Again, the UK version of the S-Packed GL. And there we have another look at the interior. This time it's just showing the GL rather than the GLS. Interestingly, this little Cortina badge on the South African version, but very similar actually interior for the GL. And this is the UK version of the GL. Interestingly, on the UK versions it always shows a radio. South African version, no matter what spec you get, it never shows a radio. So I don't know if that was some extra option that you can actually had to pick. Also interesting when we turn the page that we had this for the South African market, because the S was really the sporty one, but South Africa went one step further and had the XR6, which I kind of wish we had that in the UK. I think it would have sold well. Probably would have made more sense being called the XR4, like what the Sierra was called later on. But nevertheless, I think that would have worked actually really well for the UK market as well. There isn't really anything to compare it to actually in the UK brochures, so let's jump straight in and have a look at this very interesting XR6 Cortina. Caption for this range topper: Ford XR6, buckle in for the drive of your life. Straight away a lovely image of how that XR6 badge is on that front wing. Here, a 3-litre thoroughbred born to perform with exciting 6-cylinder power, finely tuned for economical cruising. Shield type rally seats, I don't know what it means by shield type, rally developed suspension, tachometer, dual halogen driving lights. It's a driver's car, as you'll feel when the big 185/70 radials bite the road in a tight bend. A car that goes fast and stops faster, with big, wide diameter ventilated discs up front and fine drums behind that pull this spirited car up at a touch of the pedal. It's the car you've been waiting for all your life, born to give you the drive of a lifetime. And then obviously we continue with that same text in Afrikaans. Nice little side shot, and certainly red is the colour it really suits, isn't it? This black and red design. It says XR6 on the road in full cry. And then we get that wonderful interior. It really is probably one of the nicest interiors I've actually seen for a Cortina, really made by those bucket seats, which really do suit it really nicely. And then the front end, I would have looked quite modern actually when this came out. We've even got the colour coordinated bumpers, same sort of style as the chrome ones with the black in the centre there. Interesting car. Like I said, kind of wish they actually sold these in the UK, because I'm sure it would have sold really well. I also like, you know, the two-tone treatment. I think that looks quite good on these. Overall, a very interesting car. You can also see when you do actually zoom in, you can see this extra sort of like front spoiler design there. Similar sort of idea as the GLS South African version, where we've got the spotlight directly with this overrider, and almost like the fixing on the overrider itself. But like I say, overrider is much smaller than the UK, and the UK overriders came around about here, didn't they? But yeah, certainly a very nice looking Cortina. Suits being a bit sporty, doesn't it? Which surprises me really, because you know it's a real squared off design, but actually suits being this XR6 version. This little picture in the corner kind of gives you an idea that it's got this little bit of a spoiler treatment as well. So certainly an interesting car. Like I said, not something I can really compare it to. I've just kind of like noticed the shade band on the front window there as well. But yeah, not really a car I can compare it to with the UK market, which is unusual, isn't it? Now, the Mark V Cortinas came out in 79, ran to around about 82 in the UK, so not a very long life overall. South Africa, they came a little bit later. They came out in 1980. It lasted a little bit longer, so you could even get an XR6 in 1983. And that 3-litre V6 would have been the Essex V6, if anyone's interested. Anyway, let's move on and see what other Cortinas we've got. And then we turn the page, we've got the estates, of course. So nice to see the estates as well in the South African market. Here we do have an L, interesting. So you couldn't get the L in the saloon by the looks of it, but interestingly, the L appears as the estate, the 1.6 L. Very nice. Similar sort of story in the UK, actually. The L also had a 1600 engine in it. And then we got a 2-litre GL, or in the UK we got a GL as well. You could have that as a 1600, a 2-litre, or a 2.3-litre V6. And then we've got this sort of standalone interesting model, and interesting you get the S-Pack, well not really the S-Pack but a variation of that, the GLS 3-litre as an estate. I mean, I quite like that actually. Didn't have such a thing in the UK, but we could have the gear though in the UK, and the gear came with a 1600 2-litre or 2.3-litre V6. Anyway, let's have a look at the text and learn a bit more about these interesting South African estates or station wagons. Actually, I say station wagons, it doesn't really say station wagons, so maybe in South Africa they don't refer to them as station wagons, maybe just as wagons. And indeed it starts off by saying Ford's Cortina wagon is the kind of car that helps you get more out of life. With room for everyone, it turns family outings into adventures. Staunch reliability to get you there without a care. It helps your business run more smoothly too. The 1600L is designed for maximum economy and reliability. Comfortable and spacious, it carries family and holiday gear with ease. 2000 GL is the wagon with executive appeal. Its economical, high-performance 2-litre engine and interior appointments make it the ideal business car. And then this quite interesting, I quite like it. The 3000 GLS combines 6-cylinder power and economy in a wagon with real towing guts. The easy manoeuvrability of its finger light power steering adds to the feeling of luxury. And then we get this little image there. It says a versatile roof rack is fitted to all models, which is unusual. So even that little 1.6L even got this roof rack, which is rather nice, and certainly not something that we would give away so easily in the UK. The interior of the 1600L. Nice to see we've got headrests on the L model. It says roomy and comfortable. And the 2000 GL headrests similar, but they've got this extra little bit of a cushion on there as well. And the 3000 GLS estate. Interesting, it's got the clock there that you would get on the gear model in the UK, but none of these images of the interior actually show a radio. Almost like you never got a radio standard no matter which model you got, I'm assuming. And then a bit of a zoom in on the main image there, the Ford Cortina wagon for the time of your life, and you can certainly see that roof rail, roof rack type design there on this particular model. And of course, you know, a Cortina estate, all about how much you can put on the inside there. Overriders on this estate model as well. Just to remind you what we used to do in the UK, that was kind of like our ugly idea of a tacked on fog light in the UK. But like I say, I'm starting to think these are actually more likely to be reflectors than fog lights themselves. And of course we didn't get those lovely wraparound tail lights, did we, on the estate? We got these very old fashioned units. And as I zoom in, I was just kind of like peeping what they actually had there. Then I noticed there's this little bit of a security cover or load cover on there. I don't know if you could actually get those in the UK. It tells us this is an optional extra item for all the models. This particular car itself, though, is the 3000 GLS, so the range topper. And again, unusual wheels for that model. The next page is a page that I'm not going to spend too much time on, but it's talking about safety, comfort, what else? We've got serviceability. Cortina's 5-bar link rear suspension. So various bits and pieces, but we'll move on to the next page. And then we've got the specifications, both in English and Afrikaans, but let's just concentrate on this specifications first and a bit of an overview of all the models you can get. So the models we can get is a 1.6 GL sedan, 1.6L wagon, 2-litre GL sedan and wagon, and the 3-litre GLS sedan and wagon, and of course that rather nice XR6 sedan. In comparison, in the UK, the different models were the very basic Cortina Saloon, just called the Cortina Saloon, so not even an L. So a very base model, and of course we got the L as well. And of course the GL and the gear at this time. This is from January 1980, I'm kind of like comparing it with. And of course the estates, which should get a very basic estate Cortina, not even an L. And also an L, GL and gear estate. And then of course on top of that we could get the S packs with the Cortina L, Cortina GL and Cortina gear, and just add that S pack on there to make it look a bit more sporty. Engines in the UK at this time, 1980, so we could have a 1298cc, 1593cc and a 1993cc, all 4-cylinder units, and the 2294cc V6. Here of course we're getting the 1598cc and the 1993cc, and of course then that range top of 3-litre, the 2994cc V6. Transmissions is going to be all a 4-speed synchromesh unit on a floor shift, And then we can have an option for the automatic. It's going to be a 3-speed automatic on a couple of the models as well. And then it gives you a bit of an overview of all the equipment you can get on there. I'm not going to go all through all of that. I think I'm just going to move on to the GLS and XR6 to see what features we got on those. So the GLS basically had all the features of the GL, plus it's got little things like remote operated sail mounted black exterior rear view mirror with snapback feature, bumper overriders, rear stabilizer bar, halogen driving lamps, engine compartment lamp and different tyres, and of course a 3-litre engine. So you can see on the overriders we couldn't get them on the GL, we had to move up to the GLS to get those overriders. And then the interior, it's adding things like vinyl covered front centre armrest, storage compartment, tachometer, console mounted clock, front and rear interior courtesy lamps with front rear door switches, high series gear lever, knob, vinyl handbrake gaiter. And that would take us up to the range topper for South Africa, this XR6. And again, a shame they didn't sell them in the UK. So we get a black windshield, backlight surround, black halogen driving lamps, bumper overriders, colour keyed bumpers with inserts, black drip rail cappings, black door handles, remote operated sail mounted black exterior rear view mirror, passenger side exterior rear view mirror, XR6 decals, different tyre, sort of a low profile radial, the 3-litre engine, bolt-on front bib spoiler, rear deck lid spoiler, black painted lower body panels, large bore exhaust with chrome outlets, rear stabiliser bar and a shaded windshield. On the inside we got an engine compartment lamp, console mounted quartz clock, vinyl covered front centre armrest, storage compartment, vinyl handbrake gaiter, high series gear lever knob, tachometer, black loop pile carpeting, cowl side panels, chevron cloth covered shield type front seats, black grey only, black inertia reels safety belts, front rear courtesy lamps. And it's even a quite nice back page on this South African Ford Cortina brochure. Let's start by reminding ourselves of all the models. Bit of a reminder also there isn't any 2-door models. You can get a base model with 2 doors in 1980 for the UK, and of course these are the models, so a 1600 GL, 2000 GL and 2000 GL Auto, 3000 GLS, 3000 GLS Auto and the Ford XR6 and the Cortina 600L wagon, 2000 GL wagon and 3000 GLS wagon. I guess the standout model there really is that XR6. You can certainly see that 2-tone colour and the graphics on there and those different wheels with those low profile tyres and a bit of a spoiler on the back. I wonder which model you would have picked. Certainly that XR6 is interesting, but I really quite like that 3000 GLS wagon for some reason. Let me know in the comments which model from South Africa you would choose and whether you think it would actually be worth importing one of these to the UK, because I'm sure they survived far better than they did in the UK. Rust was certainly a concern, as always with the Cortina, although I guess right at the end they were slightly better. So there we go, the South African Ford Cortina. Hope you've enjoyed looking through this brochure as much as I have. South African Cortina was one of the big sellers actually of the time. Sold far more than the cars that came after, like the Sierra and the Mondeo. They really like these Cortinas, and of course we all remember those pickups they used to do as well. Thank you so much for watching today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you've not done already. Subscribing is completely free, helps you see the episodes as they come along, and also helps the channel greatly. Finally, we'll say we've added a couple of extra videos in those boxes if you want to continue watching, and indeed there are over hundreds and hundreds actually of back catalogue for all the different brochures we've done lots of Ford brochures because we do a Ford Friday for those Ford fans out there. Finally, hope you have a great weekend. All the best. Take care and goodbye.